Okay, so guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your break. It was a nice hour-long break, so you had enough time to just relax a bit, and you also had enough time to maybe go over the questions if you wanted to. Okay, so guys, we're going to jump straight into it, and we are immediately jumping to question 6. Remember, guys, the usual structure is question 4, 5, and 6 are related to your functions. Okay, so let's see what's in store for us now. Okay, so it says over here the graphs f of x, which is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 3, and g of x, which is mx plus c, are drawn below. Okay, and they've given us the picture. D and E on the are the x-intercepts, and P is the y-intercept of f. The turning point of f is T, which is the points 1 and 4 and negative 4. So T over here is the points 1 and negative 4. All right. So the graphs f and g intersect at P and E. So the point of intersection is over here and over here. Alrighty. So 6.1 asks, write down the range of f. So remember, guys, what do we look at if we want to find the range? Do we look at the x values or do we look at the y values for range? And you guys can immediately just answer that for me in the chat. So if I'll ask you what is the range of this function, do you consider the x values or do you consider the y values? Very, very good. I'm getting a lot of y answers. Yes, you consider the y values. And basically, guys, what the range means is what are the possible outcomes of my function? So what are the possible y values that I will get? And you can get, if you even look at this graph, your range is basically any value that is equal to or above negative 4. So it's any value above this turning point. Any value that's less than negative 4, there you will not be able to get. Okay, so if you were to type in any x value, your y value will be any value that's equal to negative 4 or greater than. So therefore, for your range, y is simply greater than or equal to negative 4. If you just said greater than negative 4, you would have gotten it wrong. Okay, it's greater than or equal to. All right, calculate the coordinates of D and E. So we just have to find the x-intercepts. Okay, so I know that f of x is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 3. And basically what I need to do is I set this equal to 0. Now, why is that? Remember, at your x-intercepts, y is equal to 0. Okay, so 0 is equal to, now you factorize this. So the factors of 3, that if I add them together, I get negative 2. However, if I multiply them, I get negative 3. The only solution is x is minus 3, or sorry, x minus 3, x plus 1. Now let's test this. Negative 3 times positive 1, that gives me negative 3. And negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. So that's correct. So therefore, x is equal to negative 1 or positive 3. Now, here's the thing. Guys, what are they asking? They're asking you for the coordinates. So if you just said that, you will not get the full marks, okay? You might get some of the marks. You have to follow the instruction and give the coordinates of D and E. So here's D over here at negative 1. Here's E at positive 3. So therefore, for D, the coordinate is negative 1 and 0. And for E, the coordinate is positive 3 and 0. All right, and there is your final answer. Okay. Yes, so Lita, you could have write it like that. Can you guys see my screen? Someone said you can't. If you are struggling to see or if you can't hear me, just try and exit the chat and re-enter. You might be able to solve the solution like that, okay? But someone said for the range, you could have written it like this. Y is any value between negative 4 and positive infinity, like that, okay? So you could have written it like that. Either which way, you would have gotten the mark, okay? Anyways, so guys, those are the coordinates for D and E. Moving on, determine the equation of G. So I'm just going to write it down. Over here, it was negative 1 and 0. For E, the coordinate was 3 and 0. The turning point was at, what was the turning point again? 1 and -4, 1 and -4. And just for, to make everything clearer, this was 0 and -3 for P. Okay, so we have a few coordinates, so now we can work with it. So remember, G is a straight line graph. So what's the equation for a straight line? Y is equal to mx plus c, okay? And remember, the points at which G cuts through is points E and point P. So what can I do? Well, I can first find the gradient of the function, okay? The gradient of G. So the gradient of G is equal to change in Y over the change in X, okay? Now, where can I find my values? Over here at point E, over here at point P. So this is equal to, now what's the Y value for point E? It's 0. What's the Y value for point P? It's 0 minus -3 divided by the X value for point E is 3 minus 0. And the answer is 1. So therefore, Y is equal to X plus C. What I then do is I substitute any point. So I'm going to substitute, what point did I substitute? E is the point 3 and 0. So I substitute that into my equation, and I get that 0 is equal to 3 plus C. So therefore, C is equal to -3. And therefore, Y is equal to X minus 3. And there we go. Okay. There we go, guys. So C is -3, and that is your equation for G of X. Y is equal to -3. Okay, we're making good time. 6.4 asks, write down the values for which write down the values for X for which f of X minus G of X is greater than 0. Okay, someone asked, how did I get P? Remember, P is the y-intercept of your f of X. All right. I actually didn't even have to go through all the effort of calculating C because it was already given, but oh well. You know, yeah, this was the y-intercept of my function. So the y-intercept, X is 0, and then y was -3. So that was how we got P. Okay. And then this is the equation for G, y is equal to X minus 3. Okay. Took a little bit of the long way around, but still got to the correct answer anyways. So guys, I want you to try and answer this question. For which values would f of X minus G of X be greater than 0? You guys can answer that in the chat. I will give you 2 minutes. Okay. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of answers. I'm seeing a lot of X is greater than 3. I'm seeing X is in between 0 and 3. So let's try and figure out the answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear out all these other points because it is making the graph look a bit messy. Okay, so I'm just going to rub out some of this ink over here. Okay, because we don't actually really need these points to answer this last question. Someone said that, and then they said something like that. Okay, so what I did this. I said, okay, f of X minus G of X is greater than 0. Now, guys, you can do the very, very long way around and actually say the equation of f of X minus the full equation of G of X is greater than 0, and you solve your inequality. But there's another way. I'm going to take this, that side, and I'm going to say that f of X is greater than g of x. Okay, so basically I just manipulated what they've told me. I took the g of x to the other side, and now I want to know for which values of x will f of x be greater than g of x. Okay, so what does that mean? If they say what values for x will f of x be greater than g of x, it simply means when is f of x above g of x. Okay, so let's start from the left. I always start from the left because I am left-handed. Oops, wrong one. Highlighter. There we go. So if I approach here, I can see immediately that my function f is above g of x. Okay, so here's my function f. And it's above g of x until I get to point P. When I get past point P, you see that for a moment, f of x is below g of x, okay? Then I get to point E, and from point E above, from point E onwards, I see that f of x is again bigger than g of x, okay? So therefore, it means that, now what was the x value? Remember, we're only focusing on the x's. What was the x value for point P? It was 0 and -3. And for E, it was 3 and 0. So these are the x values for E. The x value for E is 3, and the x value for P is 0. Okay, so that's my x value. Okay. Now, for which values of x will my function f be on top of g? Well, it's either when x is less than 0 or when x is greater than 3. Okay, but now here's the thing. Do I say equal to? No, because what was the question saying? It was just saying greater than. If it said greater and or equal to, then I add my equal signs. So you could have written it like that, or for the other people, so this is the first way. The second way could be x is an element of, write it again, x is an element of, and then you put your curly brackets, negative infinity, and 0, curly brackets. Remember, it's not equal to 0, so you use your curly brackets, or, and you use that U sign from +3 until positive infinity, curly brackets. So these are your two options that you could have written, okay? Do we all understand? Are we all on board? You can give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Okay, do we all understand? Are we all still awake? Hopefully we are, because we just came from a nice long break session. Okay, perfect, guys. Next question. Determine the maximum vertical distance. All right. Yeah. Determine the maximum vertical distance between h and g if h of x is equal to negative f of x for the values between -2 and 3. Okay, so what do I do now? Now you guys can try and answer this question on your own. No worries. But what do I do for this one? For me, when I first see this, I go, okay, what is the value for h of x? Let's first find that out, okay? So what is h of x? So I know that h of x is equal to negative f of x. All right, so what do? I say that this is equal to negative. Now, what's the equation of f of x? X squared minus 2x minus 3. So therefore, h of x, you just multiply the negative in, becomes negative x squared plus 2x plus 3. Now, basically, it is this graph, but it is like that. Okay, so they've just flipped the graph. Okay, that's basically what they've done. Now, we want to know what is the vertical distance between h and g. So what I'm going to say is, I'm going to say the distance, right, is equal to h of x minus g of x, okay? Because we basically want to know what is that vertical distance over here. That's what we want to know. Here's h of x, okay, h of x, and here's g of x. So what do? We take h of x and we subtract it. We subtract g of x from h of x. So that becomes negative x squared plus 2x plus 3 minus x minus 3. And therefore, you get that the distance between, or the equation for the distance between h and g can be written as negative x squared minus x plus 6. Bam. Okay. Now, what can I do now? All right. What can I do now? What's the question asking? The question is asking for the maximum distance, okay? The maximum vertical distance. I want to know what is the greatest vertical distance. And what have I done so far? Can we all agree that I have actually found the equation itself to calculate the distance, okay? So if I were to plot this on a new graph, so this is my graph. All right, this on my y-axis, it's the distance, and on my x-axis will be the x values, all right? If I were to plot this out, can you guys agree that this will make a parabola, some sort of a parabola that looks like this, okay? Yeah, okay? So you guys can agree that it'll make some parabola that looks like this, okay? Now, if we look over here, our y value is the distance between our 2 points or our 2 functions, and the x values are the different values for x that you can put into that equation. Yep, you guys are correct. It is positive x. There we go. Correct, guys. Good eye for that. Anyways, you guys can agree that this equation here plots this distance. Now, the maximum distance, can you guys agree, is this very top point over here? That is the maximum distance for your entire thing. All right. So that therefore means that the maximum distance is equal to the turning point. Turning point. All right. So for this equation, I found the equation for my distance. To find the maximum distance, I find the turning point of that equation. So remember, to find the x value for the turning point, x is equal to negative b over 2a. So that becomes negative 1, all right, divided by 2 times negative 1, and the answer becomes a half. So that means that for this value, x will be a half, all right? And therefore, to find the maximum distance, I simply substitute this half into the equation. So therefore, d max is equal to negative 1 over 2 squared plus 1 over 2 plus 6. You type it on your calculator and you get that the maximum distance is equal to 6.25 units. Bam. Do we understand that, guys? Do we understand how I got to the maximum distance? So if you are ever doing functions and they ask you to calculate the maximum or the minimum distance between these two graphs, you use this equation, all right? Okay, so someone said they don't understand. Someone said, yes, if you find the derivative, yes, you can also find, this is also, you can use the derivatives as well. Okay, so someone asked me to repeat, so I don't mind repeating. Can everyone agree that this is can everyone understand how I got this equation for the distance, okay? I first figured out that h of x is negative times f of x. So it means it's negative times this equation. And then I got that this is the equation for h of x. I used that to find the distance, all right? Okay, so you want to know, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to rub this out. So we want to know, why am I minusing stuff? All right, take a different color, this. Oops. Pen, change my color, there we go. Okay. So this is my function. This is h of x. This is the distance. All right. Now, We want to find the vertical distance, all right? So let's just pretend this is the points 1 and 5, and this is the points 1 and -2, all right? Can you guys find this distance for me, please? Just quickly, you can just type it in the chat. How will I determine the distance between this point, which you can say A, and B? Okay? So how do you find it? You simply take the top minus the bottom. So that becomes A minus B, which is equal to 5 minus -2, which becomes 5 plus 2, which is 7. So the distance between A and B is 7 units, okay? So I think you guys understand that. It's the top minus the bottom. So just rub this out just to get some of the writing off the screen. That's what I did. There we go. I'm going to get some of the writing off. Give me a second. Okay. So that's what I did for this point over here, okay? That's what I did over here. What's the top? The top is h of x. What's this bottom value over here? That is g of x, all right? And they said between the points +3 and -2, which is somewhere over here, all right? So we had to look between the points of +3 and -2, which is somewhere over here, okay? But guys, I personally just ignored that, okay? I just wanted to find what the maximum distance was, all right? So I got this equation, and I got like this over here, and I get that the equation for my distance, not for the maximum distance, for the distance is -x² plus x plus 6. All right. Now here's the thing. If I were to draw a little graph plotting the distance for every different value of x, you guys agree that it will make a little parabola like this as we see over here. Okay, and the biggest value for my distance will be over here by your turning point. All right, do we understand that so far? You guys can say yes or no in the chat. Perfect. So now I know that the maximum distance is occurring at this turning point for this function over here, guys. So therefore, all I need to do is I need to find out what is the x value for that turning point, and then I find the y value for the turning point. And the y value, okay, is actually the maximum distance. So first, I find my x value over here. I use this formula. Then I get that x is equal to 1/2. So at that point, at that maximum distance, that max value, x is 1/2. So to find my maximum distance, I simply substitute 1/2 into this equation for the distance, and I get that my maximum distance is 6.25 units. Do we understand now? Perfect, guys. Thank you. I'm glad you guys understand. Perfect. All right. So that's this question out of the way. Let's move on to the next one. So it says it's given that k of x is g of x minus n. Determine n if k is tangent to f. Ooh. Ooh. So guys, I think I'm going to let you attempt this one. So guys, attempt this one. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Please try and answer it. Don't be shy if your answer is incorrect. We're not gonna make fun of you or anything. So guys, please try this question on your own. All right? You guys have 5 minutes to do so. I left the hardest one for you guys. So you guys can start in 3, 2, 1. Okay, guys, so time is up and I'm seeing a lot of answers here. It's around the 2 mark. I got, basically, to summarize, the answers are either 2, 2.5, yeah, 2, and then one answer is 1. I get a 2 out of 2.5. Okay, so guys, thank you very much for answering. So we are going to figure this thing out together, okay? So, number 1, I know that k of x is g of x minus n. So let's first figure out, okay, what is k of x, okay? That's the first thing I want to figure out. So I'll say that, oh, no. Let's just rewrite this and make it look nice and proper. I'll say that k of x is equal to, well, g of x is simply x minus 3, and then you subtract it from n. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do this. Remember, when answering an exam question, okay, one of the things that you must try and do is you must try and make it a little bit more simpler, right? Try and make your life a little bit more easier, okay? So by that, I mean, I'm going to just say this is x. I'm going to factor out a -1, and I get 3 plus n, okay? Now, I think we can all agree that this is a straight line graph, okay? Because we can see it from the equation, and they also said that k is a tangent, okay? Tangent is a, you know? So I know that this is firstly a straight line, and n is obviously some number that I've added to g of x or subtracted from g of x to get k of x, okay? So we can all agree that this is the c value of our function, of our straight line graph. So what I'm going to say is that therefore k of x is equal to x minus c, where c is equal to 3 plus n. Okay, so I think we all agree. Do you guys all agree that what I've just done now? I've just said that k of x is x minus c, where c is 3 plus n, okay? And I'm just going to work with x minus c because that's a little bit simpler to work with. It's not a lot of numbers and n's. It's just x minus c, okay? Now, I've done that. I found the equation of k. Now, what have they also told me? They said that k is a tangent to f. So this is k over here. So this is k of x, all right? And it touches our graph at one point, and I'm just going to call this A and B. A and B, all right? And we know that k of x is equal to x minus c, okay? That's what we know. Now, here's one thing you need. Whenever you see a tangent, whether you're doing it in calculus, whether you're doing it in your functions, okay? There's one crucial thing you need to remember. And hopefully you guys can maybe highlight it and write it down if you do not know. The gradient of my tangent is equal to the first derivative when x is equal to that point over there, A. Okay? That's the most important thing. The gradient of your tangent is equal to the first derivative of your function when x is equal to whatever x value a is. Okay? So, let's find the first derivative of f of x. So we know that f of x is firstly equal to x squared minus 2x minus 3. So you find the first derivative. So therefore, the first derivative is equal to 2x, right? You take this to the front, so this becomes 2 times x, and then the exponent, you just subtract 1, so that just becomes 2x minus 2, okay? So that is my first derivative, all right? On top of that, what is the gradient of k of x? The gradient of k of x is simply 1. How do I know? Because I can see that there is a 1 in front of the x. So therefore, the gradient of my tangent is also equal to 1. This is the derivative of my function. That is the gradient of my tangent. Do we all agree on how I got this? Okay, so do we all understand how I got to these 2 points? Okay, you guys can give a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you do not understand. But the most crucial thing you guys need to remember is this, because this also appears later on when you do calculus in question 9, especially. Okay, so do you guys understand? Thumbs up, thumbs down if you don't understand. Okay, okay, I assume we understand. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so now what I can do is, okay, I know what the derivative is, what the first derivative is. I also know what the gradient of my function is. So now what I can do is I can find the x value over here. So I'm going to take you to the next page. Remember, this is our tangent. These are the points A and B. And I know that the gradient of my tangent is equal to the first derivative when x is equal to A. First derivative is 1. And the tangent or the gradient of my tangent is 1. And I know that the first derivative is 2x minus 2. So what do? You solve for x, because if you find that x value, you find the x value for this point over here. Okay? So therefore, I solve for x. I take the 2 to the other side. So this becomes 3 is equal to 2x. So therefore, x is equal to 3 over 2. So what does that mean? Okay, let me take out my eraser. Just rub this out over here. That means that at that point, okay, at this point, my x value is 3 over 2. And now I need to find my y value. Okay, remember this is a point on your straight line as well as on your function f. So therefore, my y value is simply f of x when x is equal to 3 over 2. All right, guys? So I'm not going to write it out in full, but if you just type this on your calculator, you get that y is equal to negative 15 over 4. So therefore, this point over here is negative 15 over 4. Okay? So I see someone said, if I can please explain again, can you just tell me where you got lost? Okay, so I can just like not waste time explaining everything. So guys, if you want me to re-explain, can you just explain which part you would like me to re-explain instead of having me re-explain everything? Okay, so just tell me which part you are still struggling to understand, then I can help you with that. Okay, please just don't say everything. Okay, anyways, so I have now found this point over here, all right? I have found where these two functions meet, where k of x meets f of x. Okay, so this is k of x, all right? Now remember, what was the equation for k of x? K of x was equal to x minus c, and remember, c was equal to 3 plus n, okay? I just made it c just to make it a little bit more easy, okay? So, okay, let me just take a break quickly. Let's just see. So someone is saying from the end of the first page. Okay. So do you want me to explain this part? Michael, I think. Okay, I'll just let Michael answer that. So, Michael, over here. All right, I will take out my highlighter again. Over here, oops, wrong one. Just give me a highlighter. Over here, this is a very, very important thing to remember. Just get the gradient of your tangent. All right, so the gradient of this straight line over here is equal to the first derivative. So it's the first derivative of f at that point over there, at that for that x value. Okay. So what you do is, okay, so that I hope you understand that. All right. So the gradient of my tangent is equal to the first derivative at that point where x is equal to a. All right. Now, I know from this equation over here that k of x is simply equal to 1x minus c. And remember, c is that constant, okay? So what's the gradient of k? It's 1. So that means that the gradient of my tangent is 1. It's a positive 1, all right? Do we understand that so far, guys? Do we understand how I got to that, all right? So if the gradient of your tangent is 1, remember the gradient of the tangent is equal to the first derivative at that point, okay? okay, yeah. So the gradient of the tangent is 1. I also know that the first derivative for my entire function is simply 2x minus 2. Okay, that's how I got my first derivative. All right. Now, because the gradient of my tangent is 1, that means that the value for my first derivative is also 1. So you set the gradient of your tangent equal to your first derivative like this. Okay, let me just, oops, I just want to rub this out. And I'm going to make this x. I think, there we go. Okay, so I say that the gradient of my tangent is equal to the first derivative, and I solve for x. Okay, so I say 1 is equal to 2x minus 2, and I get that x is equal to 3 over 2. That is the value for this point over here, where this tangent touches my graph. All right? Then what I do is, okay, I have the x value for this point. How do I find the y value? I take this x value and I substitute it into the original equation. So remember, f of x is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 3. So therefore, f, when you substitute x is equal to 3 over 2, that becomes 3 over 2 squared minus 3 over 2 times 3 over 2 minus 3. And therefore, you get that when x is equal to 3 over 2, y will become negative 15 over 4. Okay, so that's how I got my x value. That's how I got my y value. Do you guys understand now? Are we on board so far? Okay, you can say yes or no. Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it like this. Okay, I'm not going to rub it out. I'm just going to change my pen color. Change it to red. Come pen, come. Let's get up my pen. There we go. And I'm going to change it to red. Perfect. Okay. So now what I did was I figured out what is this point where the tangent touches my function. Now remember, k of x is equal to x minus c. I'm just going to make a block here so we can do this other part. Alrighty. Now what I can do is I can find the value for k of x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute the point 3 over 2 and negative 15 over 4. And I get that negative 15 over 4 is equal to 3 over 2 minus c. All right. You take the 3 over 2 to the other side. So that becomes negative 15 over 4 minus 3, which is 12 over 9. Right? No. Yeah, minus 3 over 2. Minus 3 over 2. That is equals to, oh, sorry. I am not paying attention here. I do beg your pardon. Yeah. Oops, sorry, guys. Give me a second. Yeah. So you get negative 15 over 4 minus 3 over 2, and that's equal to negative c. You solve for this, and you get that c is equal to negative 21 over 4. All right? So, sorry, guys, I just got a little bit distracted here. But don't worry. You solve for c, and you get that your constant is equal to this. All right? So that therefore means that k of x is equal to x minus 21 over 4. All right. So that is the equation for my straight line. Do you guys understand how I got to that part? Okay. Do we all understand how I found the equation for my straight line? I simply found the, so you see, remember guys, C is, well, I'm going to get to the value of N, but just remember C is, no, it's definitely a negative. Let's just see quickly, negative 15 over 4. So that becomes, yeah. So let's just do this a long way. I'll show you guys. Okay, let me just rub this out and I'll show you guys. Okay. So negative 15 over 4 minus 3 over 2, that becomes negative 15 over 4 minus, what's this? 3 over 2. That becomes minus 6 over 4. Remember, usually equivalent, that is equal to negative c. All right? So that becomes, yeah. Then you get that, therefore, this is equal to negative 21 over 4 is equal to negative c. So you're right. So therefore, c is equal to 21 over 4. Okay, yeah, you guys are correct. Okay. Oops, sorry, guys, I must like present and also think here. So, you do sometimes trip up. But don't worry. So therefore, that means that k of x is equal to x plus 21 over 4. All right? So that's what k is, okay? This is the equation for my straight line. Do we all understand that? Okay? It is a bit of a tricky one, and you might have to rewatch this, okay? But we get that the equation for my straight line is k is equal to x plus 21 over 4. All right. Now remember, what is that value for c? We remember that c is 3 plus n. So therefore, 21 over 4 is equal to 3 plus n. And therefore, n is equal to 21 over 4 minus 3, all right, which gives you 9 over 4. So that is how I got to n. Okay, so I know this is a little bit tricky, so I'm going to just go through it again. Okay, so my highlighter. Step 1, I just pay attention. Step 1, I first found what is the equation of this new function k of x, all right? And I got that x was equal to this. What I said was, okay, I'm going to make it a little bit more simple. I'm going to say let this 3 plus n equal c, okay? So now I get that k of x is equal to x minus c, all right? Just to make it a little bit more simpler, all right? So that's what I got over here, all right? Now, okay, what do I do next? Yeah, okay, I'll just all read the other stuff first. Now I realize that the gradient of my tangent is equal to the first derivative when x is equal to whatever value a is, okay? Then I found what my first derivative was, okay? So I'm just finding the information. I'm not doing anything yet. I'm just finding the stuff I need to solve this problem. Then I go over here. I said, okay, now I'm going to make my gradient equal to my first derivative, and I'm going to solve for x. All right. So what I do is I type this out and I solve for x, and I get that x is equal to 3 over 2. All right. Okay, I hope you understand that. Okay. Now, what do? You solve for y. All right. So I get that x is equal to 3 over 2 over here. Then what I do is I find the y value by just substituting it into my function, and I get this. All right. Then what I do is I find c. Okay, and I get that c is positive 21 over 4. So therefore, k is equal to x minus 21 over 4. Remember, x was equal to, k of x was equal to x minus c, okay? And c is positive 21 over 4. So therefore, the straight line is x minus 21 over 4. But remember, c was 3 plus n, okay? Because that's what it was in the beginning. It was this thing over here, okay? So now I know that c is 21 over 4, and I also know that c is 3 plus n. So what do? I solve for n, and I get that n is 9 over 4. Does that make sense now, guys? So someone asks, let's see, sir, can't you make k of x equal f of x and then Since it's a tangent, it will only cut the graph at one point. You could have done it like that. You can maybe try it for yourself and just see what the answers you get. But if you get 9/4, then definitely that could be the way. All right. But there are many, sometimes for these questions, there are like 3 or 4 ways you can find the answer. Okay. But for the rest of you guys, do you guys understand how I got this? Okay, perfect. Let's move on. So, done with that. Now we get to question 7. Now, question 7, guys, is your financial maths. All right. So, what does it say over here? It says that 6 years ago, Taubu bought a phone for 13,000 Rand. The value of the phone depreciated annually according to the reducing balance method. The value for the phone is now 8,337.75. Okay, or 0.75. Calculate the annual rate of depreciation. So they've given us some clues here. Number one, they said that it depreciated. All right. And they also said the reducing balance method. Reducing balance method. Okay. So what can I find here? I firstly know that A is my amount that I have today. So how much is that phone worth today? It's worth 8,337.75. Okay. I also know that my original amount was 13,000 Rand. Okay. For how many years was this? Well, they said it was 6 years ago. So the amount of time I've had this phone was 6 years. And I need to figure out what is R. Okay. So how much does this phone depreciate every year? So therefore, I use this equation. I say A is equal to P 1 plus R to the power of N. But now here's the thing. It is depreciation. So therefore, that plus R must be a minus R because it's getting less and less every year. Let me just get out my eraser. So that becomes minus R, okay? Minus R. And all I do now is I substitute into my formula. So that becomes 8,337.75 is equal to 13,000 times 1 minus R to the power of 6. And all I need to do now, guys, I need to now figure out what is the value for R. All right. So what I do now, I divide both sides by 13,000 and I get that 0.0641365 dot is equal to 1 minus R there. Now I get R on one side. Okay, guys, no. 1 minus R to the power of 6. Then what I do is I take the 6th root of both sides, okay? And I get that 1 minus R is equal to 0.8008 recurring. Guys, you see, I'm not rounding off. I'm only going to round off at the very end, right? And therefore, I get R on its own, and I get that R is 0.1991. So therefore, the rate at which this depreciates every year is equal to 19.91%. Okay, so that's the rate at which the phone depreciates every year. Okay, guys, a very, very simple 3 marks. Okay. Oh, this is a big one. So 7.2 states, Eric and Tandy need to save 80,000 Rand each to go on a holiday at the end of December 2027. You don't get... Let's just check it out quickly. It could be that. 8337.75 divided by 15,000. Oh, 8.337. Divided by, let's just see quickly. Divided by 13,000. Yeah, you do get 0. Sorry, I think I just added a 0 in here, but don't worry, everything else should be still correct. Let's just check. The 6th root of that is equal to, let's just alpha pre-answer. Yeah. Oops, I've made another mistake. I do apologize, guys. I did do this yesterday. So let's just, okay. So you get 8337.75 divided by 13,000, and you get 0.641 recurring. Then what you do is you take the sixth root of both sides, and you get that this is 0.92 recurring. Okay. And therefore, if you get R, if you solve for R, you get 1 minus this, and you get that R is 0.071. So therefore, the rate of depreciation is 7.1%. Okay, guys, I do apologize for that. Okay, so there we go, 0.92 recurring. I do apologize. I just made a bit of a mistake. I added in an extra zero. But there's your answer, okay? That's the rate at which it depreciates. Okay, moving on. So it says that Eric and Thandi need to save 80,000 Rand each to go on holiday at the end of December. They say that Thandi decides that she will start saving at the end of Jan, and she will make 36 monthly deposits into her savings account that pays interest at 8.6% per annum. And this is compounded monthly. Okay. The deposit will be made at the end of each month. Eric calculates that if he makes 48 deposits of 1,402.31 starting at the end of Jan, he will save enough money to go on holiday. He will make his deposits into a savings account at the end of each month. The savings account pays interest at 8.6% per annum, compounded monthly. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look, okay, what information do I have for Thandi? All right. So I know that Thandi is going to make 36 payments, okay, because it's told me that. All right. I also know that the interest rate is 8.6, so it's 0.086 divided by 12. Okay. That's what I know. All right. What else do I know? I know that I need to save 80,000 Rand. Now, guys, when do I need this 80,000 Rand? Do I need it now or in the future? You guys can say it in the chat. Do I need this 80,000 Rand today, or do I need it later on in the future? Perfect. All right. I need it for the future. So I know that this 80,000 Rand is my future value. All right. That's what I need. Okay. Later on into the future. Perfect. Now, what I'm missing is my monthly deposits, which is X. I don't know what I need to do for the question yet. I'm just writing down the information that they have given me. Let's look at Eric. So Eric, he wants to make a total of 48 payments. So the number of payments is firstly 48. Okay. And he deposits, so they've given the X value of 1,402.31 cents. What else do they say? He also needs to save 80,000 Rand. So that's also a future value. All right. And the interest rate is 0.086 divided by 12. Okay. So this is the information that they have given me. I do not know what the question is asking just yet, but I just write down what I know. Okay. Because maybe I'll be able to use this later. Now it says, calculate the difference between the total amount that Eric and Thandi will deposit into their respective savings accounts. Okay, so we want to know what is the difference between the total amount that they are going to pay over this period of time. Okay, guys. So what you do is okay, I'm going to change colors now. I'm going to change it to this one. So let's first look at Eric. Okay, because Eric is the easiest one. Eric, okay? I'm going to focus on Eric. How much payments did Eric make in total? Okay, so remember every month he deposited 1,402 Rand, and how many cents was it? It's 31 cents. Sorry, 31 cents. Okay, now how many payments did he make? He made 48 payments. How do I know that? It has told me that. So this becomes 48. So therefore, how much payments did he make in total over that over that few years? It just becomes this amount multiplied by 48, and you get that the total amount that he has paid is 67,310 rand and 88 cents. So this is the total amount that Eric has paid in those 48 months. Okay. Now let's focus on Thandi. Okay. Now here's the problem. We have all the information, but I do not know what Thandi is paying per month. Okay. So I first need to figure that out. So again, I'm going to use my future value formula, and that is equal to x times 1 plus I to the power of n minus 1 divided by I. Okay, so let's figure this out. I need 80,000 in the future, so that's 80,000 is equal to x times 1 plus my interest rate, which is 0.086 over 12 to the power of 36, because that's the number of payments that I've made. How do I know that? They've told me that. Minus 1 divided by my interest, which is 0.086 divided by 12. And guys, all I need to do is I need to solve for x. So I take this entire thing, this entire big bracket over here, and I divide both sides by it. So therefore, x is equal to 80,000, 1, 2, 3, divided by, and I'm going to write it, 1 plus 0.086 over 12, the power of 36 minus 1, divided by 0.086 over 12. And when you do that, you get that the monthly deposit that she pays is 1,955. 1,955. Oops. And what I'm going to say, 78 cents, right? Yes, 78 cents. Perfect. So that is the total amount that Thandi is paying per month. So now that I have that, what I'm going to do is I say, okay, this is the amount that she pays per month. So I'm going to just rub out everything else. Okay. But I'm going to rub out this. Okay. Just so it becomes a little bit easier and I have a little bit more space to write on my page. So there we go. I'm going to just change my color. So I know that the amount that Thandi pays per month is 1,955 and 78 cents. Now, how many months does she pay for? Remember, it said she paid for 36 months. So what you do is you just multiply this value by 36, and you get that the total amount that she spends is 70,408 rand and 0.166 cents. Okay. So remember, what is the question asking? The question is asking for the difference between the total amount that Thandi pays and the total amount that Eric pays. So therefore, the difference is simply equal to 70,408 rand and 0.166 cents minus 67,310 rand and 88 cents. And therefore, the difference is, if you type this on your calculator, is 3,097 rand and 14 cents. Okay, so that's the difference that those two are paying. Okay, do we all understand how I got that? The biggest thing you had to do is you had to first figure out, okay, how much does this child pay per month for her, how much does she deposit into her savings account every month? Okay, once you figure that out, you can figure out, okay, how much does she pay for that entire 36-month period? She pays about 70,000 rand. So what's the difference that those two pay? It's 3,097 rand and 14 cents. Okay. Do we all understand that? You can give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. But I'm going to move on to the next question. Oops. There we go. Okay. So someone asked, sir, is the 67? No, it's with interest. Okay. So we did include the interest. All right. So no. So guys, remember, that amount that Eric pays, they calculated that's how much he owes the bank. This is what the bank calculated, and they included the interest. Okay. So he pays that every single month. Okay. So it's not without interest. The interest was included when the bank calculated the amount that Eric must pay to them every month. Okay, so that's why he's paying 1,402 rand 31 cents. He didn't just decide to pay that. The bank calculated that he needed to pay that, or he figured out that he needs to pay that based on the interest rate. Okay, so yes, it does include interest. Okay, for Tandy, however, you first had to figure it out. How much does she owe per month, which is this value over here? And you can see it includes the interest rate. Okay, so she had to pay this amount per month, and she paid that over 36 months. Okay, and this is the total that she paid, and this is the total that Eric paid. All right, so does that answer your question, Tatum? Anyways, so it says over here that Lesibana, if I'm saying it correctly, was granted a loan of 225,000 Rand. The rate of interest for the loan is 9% per annum compounded monthly. Lesibana will make monthly payments of 5,500 Rand starting exactly 4 months after the loan was granted. How many payments will Lesibana make or will need to make to settle the loan? So, guys, I'll give you the opportunity to answer this. So, state the number of payments she needs to make to settle this loan. Okay, so you guys can answer that for me starting now. Remember, post your answers in the chat. Thank you, guys, and good luck. Okay, guys, so I'm getting a lot of answers. I'm seeing the answers is around about, some people are saying 46s. It's ranging from 46 to about 51. So, guys, let's see what the correct answer is. So, again, let's read carefully. This person was granted a loan. So, if you are given a loan, when are you given the loan? You're given the loan on the very same day. So, firstly, I know that this is a present value, and the present value of my loan is 225,000 Rand. What is my monthly deposit? My monthly deposit X is 5,500 Rand. Okay. The interest rate is equal to 0.09, right? Because that's how you write percentage. And then you divide it by compounded monthly. So it's divided by 12. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Okay. This child has missed 4 payments. So there's my little number line. Okay. So she was given the loan now at Jan, Feb, March, April, May. Okay. And she only paid after the 4th month. So she got the loan today, and then she skipped the 1st month, the 2nd month, the 3rd month, and she only started paying on the 4th month. Okay. So what has happened, guys? Remember that 225,000 Rand is the money that you owe the bank. But if you miss payments, all right, that amount that you owe the bank starts growing every month. Okay. So, therefore, the future value formula, or sorry, the present value formula is going to look a little bit different. It's going to look something like this. It's going to be your present value times 1 plus I to the power of k is equal to x, right? 1 minus 1 plus I to the power of negative n over I. Now, guys, k is the amount of payments that I have missed, okay? So how many payments have I missed? I've missed 1, 2, 3 payments. So that amount that I owe the bank is going to grow by 3 months, okay? So guys, please, for future reference, if you ever take out a loan from the bank and they tell you, don't worry, you can only start paying the loan in June, you don't have to worry now, you tell those people to go fly a kite, okay? Because that money is going to grow and it's going to grow, and the amount that you're going to have to pay back is going to be a lot more, and you're going to have to pay back that amount for a longer period of time. Okay, so guys, please, there's a lesson to be learned here. Never miss payments for loans, especially. And it also messes with your credit score, and then you can't buy a house one day. Anyways, so this is now the new future value, okay? Why? Remember over here, I have missed payments. So when you miss payments for present value, I keep getting the two confused. When you miss payments for the present value, that amount that you owe starts growing. So let's get started. So how much did I get from the bank? Well, I got 225,000 Rand. All right. And on top of that, I missed 3 payments. So that 225,000 Rand grew over that 3 months. All right. It grew over that 3 months. Okay. Now, what is my monthly deposit? It was 5,500 Rand multiplied by 1 minus 1 plus 0.09 over 12 to the power of negative n. All of that divided by I, which was 0.09 over 12. Okay. Now I have, no, remember, it's not 4 months, because look again. They said you start paying on the 4th month, exactly 4 months. So look, in January, this is when I got my loan. February, March, April, May. So this is the 4th month. First, second, third month. So I missed the 1st month. I missed the 2nd month. I missed the 3rd month. I only started paying on the 4th month. So how many payments have I missed? I've missed 3 payments. Okay. Anyways, so guys, now you need to solve this. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to that side and I'm going to type this whole thing on my calculator. So this becomes 225,000 times 1 plus 0.09 over 12 times 0.09 over 12 is equal to 5,500 Rand times 1 minus 1 plus 0.09 over 12 to the power of negative n. Guys, you type this whole big side on your calculator and you get 1725, comma, 754, dot, dot, dot. It's a big decimal number. And what you do is, that is equal to 5,500 times 1 minus 1 plus 0.09 over 12 to the power of negative n. What you do now is you divide both sides by 5,500 and you get that 0.313 recurring is equal to 1 minus 1 plus 0.09 over 12 to the power of negative n. Okay? Then what you do is you carry on solving it. You take your 1 to the other side and you get that 1 plus 0.09 over 12 to the power of negative n is equal to 1 minus this answer, and that is 0.68622 recurring. Okay? So, guys, this is just basic algebra. Okay? So then what you do is, I'm going to take it to the next page. We got that 0.68622 recurring is equal to 1 plus 0.09 over 12 power of negative n. Now I want to figure out what negative n is. So I say that negative n is equal to the log. Now, guys, which side do I use? Do I use this one in the brackets? Do I use that 0.68? I use this one, the base for my power n. So what is the base? 1 plus 0.09 over 12 of 0.686 recurring, and therefore you get that negative n is equal to negative 50.39. So therefore n is equal to 50.39. Now here's the thing. They asked how many payments does she make? Therefore, the number of payments is equal to 51 payments. Now, guys, why is it 51? Why is it not 50.39? Remember? Okay. You are going to make 50 full payments and you make one partial payment. Okay. So that 0.39 you pay the next month. Okay. So you pay slightly less than what you paid before. But yes, it is 51 payments. Okay. So it's 50 full payments plus that 0.39 payment, okay? Yes, and you only round off at the end. Do we use the same value if there's... No, for future value, if you miss payments, then it gets a bit less. So this only works for present value because remember, if you take out a loan and you miss payments, that loan grows over time. But if you are saving up money and you miss a payment, that money that you save is not going to grow over time. It's still going to stay the same. You just now have to make either more payments or increase your deposits. Okay. So I think if you rounded off mid equation or mid calculation, you probably would have gotten a 49 or something. But if you didn't, you remember, guys, you only round off at the very, very end. Okay. So these answers you kept big, you kept it saved on your calculator, and you only rounded off your final answer at the end. Okay. If you rounded off during a calculation to maybe 2 or 3 decimal places, that's when you would have gotten a 49 or something. So guys, please make sure you round off your answers at the very, very last point. Okay. So sorry, sir, how did you determine 51 payments again? Remember that 50.39. So what you do is, okay, I've made a 50 payments. That's 50 full payments. And that 0.39 is that partial payment that I've made, okay? So that's why I said it's 51 payments. So it's 50 full ones and then one partial payment, okay? And that is how I got the answer of the 51 payments, okay? So I hope that makes sense to you guys, okay? Anyways, so that was question 6. So well done for those of you who got 51 payments. And if you didn't, don't worry. For those of you who got 49, just check where you maybe made your mistake. It probably was in the rounding off part, okay? Anyways, carrying on. So question 8 now, guys. Remember, question 8 is your calculus. Okay. And calculus is my personal favorite section. So 8.1 is always the first principle ones. And it says, determine f prime of x, or determine your first derivative from the first principles if f of x is 1 over x. Okay. So I firstly know that f prime of x is equal to the limit as h tends to 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x. And I divide everything by h. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute. So this is equal to the limit as h tends to 0. And guys, you never forget to write that. You only take it out at the very last point, but you never forget to write that. Otherwise, you can lose marks. It becomes 1 over x plus h minus 1 over x. Because all you do is you rewrite the equation, and for f of x plus h, you simply substitute an x plus h, and you divide that by h. Now, what my goal needs to be is, when answering first principles, your major target is to get rid of this h in the denominator, okay? I hope you guys understand that. So what I'm going to do is I'm firstly going to simplify this. So this becomes the limit as h tends to 0 of 1 over h, all right, times 1 over x plus h minus 1 over x, okay? Which remember, if I have a over b, that's the same as saying 1 over b times a, all right? In case you guys forgot about that. I'm just going to rub this out. Okay. So now I just have to simplify this thing inside the bracket, and hopefully it can cancel out this h over here. So this is equal to the limit as h tends to 0 of 1 over h multiplied, but now I need to solve this. So what I do is this becomes x minus x plus h divided by x times x plus h. All right, this is basically adding of fractions. If you guys do not know how to add fractions, you can just tell me and I can show you. But this is how you add your fractions. So this is equal to the limit as h tends to 0 of 1 over h times, now the top part, x minus h, well, the x is cancelled and I'm left with negative h over x times x plus h. All right. So just to recap, I have the limit as h tends to 0 of 1 over h times negative h divided by x times x plus h. Okay? Just let you go back. Okay, so that's what I've gotten. Now look here. Okay, I'm just going to go to the next slide. You guys can copy it now. I have a 1 over h multiplied by the h. So these h's are going to cancel. So this is equal to the limit as h tends to 0 of negative 1 over x times x plus h. Once you have cancelled that h out, then you can get rid of this. So then what I do is I say substitute h is equal to 0. So this is equal to 1 over, or negative 1 over x times x plus 0. All right. And this is therefore equal to negative 1 over x squared, because this just becomes x times x. So therefore, the first derivative is simply equal to negative 1 over x squared. And there we go. Okay, well done. All right. So I'll go back to the next slide. So guys, your most important thing you need to do is, I'm going to change the color. you need to get rid of this h. No matter which one you're doing, if you can get rid of that h, you know you're on the right track, okay? So guys, please get rid of that h, okay? Very simple, very, very easy 5 marks that everyone should be getting in their tests, okay? 8.2 says, determine the first derivative of the square root of 4x to the power of 6 plus the rest, okay? Square root 2 times x squared. So, when solving this and you see these ugly signs, your first step is to simplify this. Get rid of the square roots. If x is in the denominator, get rid of that, guys, and simply try and neaten this up. So, I'm going to first do that. So, the first step is to neaten it up. So, this becomes the first derivative of square root of 4 is 2x. The square root of x to the power of 6 is x to the power of 3 plus the square root of 2 times x squared. So now I have neatened this up. Now I can take it a step further and actually solve for the derivative or figure out what the derivative is. So therefore, the first derivative is equal to, this becomes 2 times 3 is 6, x to the power of 3 minus 1, which is squared. 2 times the square root of 2 is 2 square root 2 multiplied by x, and then 2 minus 1 is 1. And there we go. There is your solution. All right. That's the first one. Our next one. Okay. It says find g prime of x if g of x is equal to this fraction over here. Now, guys, there are ways that you can take the derivative of a fraction, okay, but it's not taught in the syllabus. So we have to now go the long method. So I know that g of x is equal to 3x to the power of 4 minus 4x squared plus 6, all of that over x squared. Now, when solving this, you need to firstly get rid of all the square root signs and all of that. And also, if you see that x is in the denominator, you have to get rid of that x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out an x squared in the top part. And I'm going to get, well, this becomes 3x squared minus 4, right? Because you just divide everything here by x squared plus 6 over x squared, all right? Divided by x squared. Because my first step was I need to get rid of all those x's. Now look here, there's an x squared at the top and an x squared at the bottom, so they cancel. Therefore, g of x is equal to 3x squared plus 6 over x squared minus 4. So then once you have done that, you can take your first derivative. So therefore, my first derivative is equal to, this becomes 2 times 3, which is 6x, right? Oh, but before I can do that, I need to get rid of this x here. So this becomes 3x squared plus 6x to the power of negative 2 minus 4. Okay, so now you can take, you can finally take your first derivative. So that becomes 6x minus 12x to the power of negative 3. The derivative of negative 4 is just 0. The derivative of any constant, no matter what it is, it's 0. Okay? And therefore, you can simplify this, and you can get that g of x is equal to 6x minus 12 over x cubed. And there is your final answer. Okay, guys? So guys, I hope you all understand that. That's pretty easy. What's the 6 marks that we can give? Plus that 5 marks. So it's a good, easy 11 marks. Now, finally, question 8.3 states, the equation of the tangent to f of x, and they've given you the equation of f of x, at x is equal to 1, is given by y is equal to 9x minus 9. Determine the values of b and c. So what's happening here? I have a tangent. Oops. All right. And the equation, or here's my tangent over here. And it cuts the graph at the single point where x is equal to 1. So it's 1 and some y value. I do not know what the y value is yet. However, I know that the equation for my tangent is y is equal to 9x minus 9. Okay? And we want to find, we basically want to find what is the equation for the original graph. So we have to determine B and C. Now, guys, you're going to answer this one for me. You have 4 minutes to answer this. You can say what B and C is in your answers. Okay? You guys can start now. Okay, so I see many people are saying B is equal to 3 and C is equal to -6. So let's find out the answers, okay? Let's see. Okay. So remember what I told you, okay? Remember what I told you in the other question? The gradient of your tangent is equal to the first derivative when x is equal to this value. So it's the first derivative when x is equal to 1, okay? So what is the gradient of my tangent? Let's look at that number in front of the x. The gradient of my tangent is 9, okay? What is my first derivative, okay? Well, f of x is simply equal to 3x squared plus bx plus c, okay? So therefore, the first derivative is simply equal to, this becomes 6x plus b, okay? So now I know that the gradient of my tangent is equal to the first derivative when x is equal to 1. So therefore, that means that 9 is equal to 6 times 1 plus b. And you solve for b, you get b on its own, and therefore you get that b is simply equal to 9 minus 6, which is 3. So I have b already. Now I just need to find c. Okay? So I get that f of x is equal to 3x squared plus 3x plus c. Okay? Now I need to find a point to substitute in. All right? So I need to find out, okay, I have the x value for this point. I just need to find out what the y value is, okay? So y value is pretty simple. You can plug it in into your straight line graph. So y is equal to 9 times 1 minus 9, and you get that y is equal to 0. Okay, so this is equal to 0. So when your x value is 1, your y value is 0. Okay, so this is the point of over here where our tangent touches our graph. It's at the point 1 and 0. Okay, now what can I do is, well, this is my equation for the graph after I found b. So to find c, I substitute the point 1 and 0. So therefore 0 is equal to 3 times 1 squared plus 3 times 1 plus c. So 0 is equal to, this just becomes 6 plus c. So therefore c is equal to negative 6. Okay? And there we go. B is equal to 3 and c is equal to negative 6. So well done, guys. It's a very good question. Okay. Question 9. We just have 2 more questions left and then we are finished, guys. So just bite a bit fast. Okay. So it says the graph of f of x, and they've given you the equation of f of x is drawn below. E, which is the point -1 and 0, and g, the point 5 and 0, are the x-intercepts of f. Okay. So here's E, here's G, and here's also the y-intercept at -5. Okay. Just so we have that. For 9.1, we need to show that A is equal to 1, B is equal to -3, and C is equal to -9. Okay. Now, what do we know? Okay. Let's look carefully. They have given us the x-intercepts. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, therefore, f of x is equal to A, right? Because A is basically telling you, is this a positive graph? Is this a negative graph? Is it a very long or a squished graph? It basically just gives you the shape and whether it's positive or negative. A, and what you do is you do a bracket and it says A times x minus 5, x minus 1 squared. Okay, because x plus 1 squared, because these are the 3 intercepts of our function. Think about it like this, guys. This graph basically intercepts E twice. Okay, remember, this is x to the power of 3, so there are usually 3 roots. Just 2 of the roots is at the same point. Okay, so this is our graph. Okay, now all I need to do is I just need to find what A is equal to. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute any other point that is not the x-intercept. Okay, if you substitute the x-intercept, you're going to just make a big mess up. Okay, it's going to give you naught on both sides. Substitute any other point that is not on the x-intercept. So I'm going to substitute the y-intercept, which is 0 and -5. So I get that -5 is equal to A times 0 minus 5 times 0 plus 1 squared. Okay, this is just 1. Okay, 0 plus 1 squared. So therefore, I get that -5 is equal to -5a. So therefore, a is equal to 1. Bam. Okay, done. So that therefore means, therefore, f of x is equal to a times x minus 5 times x plus 1 squared, and we know that a is equal to 1. So f of x is just equal to that. And now, guys, all you need to do is you just need to multiply your brackets out, okay? That's all you need to do. So if you do that, this becomes x minus 5 If I multiply this bracket out, this becomes x squared plus 2x plus 1. All right. And now, guys, if you multiply this out, I'm just going to skip a few steps just to save time. You get that f of x is equal to x cubed minus 3x minus 9x minus 5. Okay. Okay, you don't really need to, this is just basically multiplying out your brackets. But guys, if you multiply it out properly, you get that x is equal to, or f of x is x cubed minus 3x squared, okay, minus 9x minus 5. And that is the equation for this function. Do we understand how I got to that? You guys can post a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you don't understand. But do you guys understand how I got to the equation? You just had to realize that they gave you the 3 points of intersection. All right, so you would have looked something like this. And all you needed to do was you needed to find the value for A. Okay? So, perfect. Let's move on. 9.2 says, calculate the value of x for which f has a local minimum value. What does that mean? They want to know what is the x value for our minimum value, or basically this point over here. This is your minimum value, and this point over here is your maximum value. All right. We already know that this is -1 and 0. We have to figure out what this point is over here. Okay. Yeah, so guys, C is -9. Okay. Yeah, so guys, look at this equation. Okay, and we just write it out maybe a bit neater for you. Okay, just rub it out. Write it somewhere else nicely. Okay. Give me a sec. Change the color. Okay. So remember, f of x, if you multiply this whole thing out, you get that f of x is equal to x cubed, right? Which is A, minus 3x squared, which is B, minus 9x, which is our C value. And finally, our D value was already given to us, which was -5. Okay, so that's the equation for our function. Anyways, guys, we have to now find the minimum point of this. So remember, what do I know about our minimum and our maximum points? I know that the first derivative is always equal to 0 at those points. No matter what function it is, your first derivative is always 0 at your turning points. Okay, so my first step is I need to find the first derivative. So I know that f of x, sorry, this is f of x, that is equal to x cubed minus 3x squared minus 9x minus 5. So therefore, that means that my first derivative, f prime of x, becomes 3x squared minus 6x minus 9. Now what we do, we set that equal to 0. So you set for f prime of x equal to 0. So that therefore means that 0 is equal to 3x squared minus 6x minus 9. Okay, guys, and all we need to do is we need to find the x values. So we get that 0. If we divide this whole side by 3, get that this is x squared minus 2x minus 3. And 0, if you factorize this, now factors of 3, if I add them together to give me -2, that is x minus 3, x plus 1. And think about it, -3 times +1 is -3, -3 plus 1 is -2, so I'm on the right track. Therefore, x is either -1 or -3. Now look, guys, we already have -1, okay? So I can ignore that. So therefore, x is -3, okay? So guys, we have -1, so the x value for this turning point is -3, okay? Oh, sorry, +3. I do apologize. +3. Yeah, so it's +3 at that point. Now, guys, I know the question didn't say this, but let's find the y value. So we know that at that turning point, x is equal to positive 3. So what's the y value? All you need to do is you plug in that y value into your original function. Okay? And if you do that, you get that this is 3 and negative 32. Okay? So let me just write this neater. Now, I know the question only wants the x value, which is fine, but I'm going to write down the turning point because you never know. You might need to consider that a bit later on. Okay? So I'm going to say that this is the point 3 and negative 32. Okay? Done. Moving on. Okay, hopefully we understand so far, guys. Okay, if you understand, you can give me a thumbs up. Okay, perfect. Now they say, use the graph to determine for which values of x will the second derivative times the first derivative be above 0. Now, whenever you see this, I always think, okay, what they're basically asking is for which value of x will the second derivative, so it's the second derivative, times our function f of x, when will this be a positive? All right. Now think about it. What multiplied by what gives me a positive, guys? Remember, a positive multiplied by a positive is positive. But also a negative multiplied by a negative is a positive. So what does that mean? That means that we need to look for points on the graph where both the second derivative and our function is a positive, and we need to look for points of the graph where both the second derivative and the function are negative. Okay, that's what it's referring to. Now, when you see second derivative, what utilizes the second derivative? What point on our graph considers the second derivative? It is our inflection point. Okay, do we understand? So it's that point where we go from being concave down to concave up. Okay, in case you guys forgot. So my first goal is I'm going to look at this question and I'm going to say, okay, what is the inflection point, or what is my point of inflection? So guys, remember, I know that my first derivative was 3x squared minus 6x minus 9. So therefore, my second derivative is simply 6x minus 6. And remember, your second derivative is 0 at your inflection point. Okay? So I set this equal to 0 is equal to 6x minus 6. So 6 is equal to x. So therefore, x is 1. So what does that mean? It means that the x value for my inflection point over here, I'm just going to say I, is 1. Okay? And it's some y value. Now, I'm not even going to find the y value. Why? Because they're only asking you to consider the values for x. So, let me just get out my eraser. Okay. So guys, I found my inflection point. Okay, my inflection point is this value y. Okay. Now, what do I know about my inflection point? I know that if my inflection point is positive, all right, that means that the graph is concave up, all right? If my inflection point is negative, all right? Oh, no. Let me write it like this. Okay, this will make a little bit more sense, okay? Okay, so if x is greater than the value for inflection point, which is 1, it means that your graph is concave up. All right. If x, right, is less than 1, it is concave down. All right. I hope you understand that. So if I go this side of the graph, it means that this thing is concave down. If I go to that side, it is concave up. Okay. Hopefully we understand that. Now, if it's concave up, it means that your second derivative is positive. If it's concave down, it means that your second derivative is negative. Okay, I hope we understand that. Okay, so if your graph is concave up, your second derivative is positive. If it's concave down, it's negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my highlighter and I want to look for parts on the graph where both the function and the second derivative is positive. So I'm going to first look at this one over here. So remember, the second derivative is positive when we go beyond this point. So if I go beyond 1, I know my second derivative is positive. So that's a check. But here's the thing. For which values of x will my function be positive? Remember, guys, it's only positive when it's above the x-axis. So let's see. Here's my inflection point. I move past it. But now the problem is my function is negative. My inflection point is positive, but my function is negative. Or sorry, my second derivative is positive, but my function is negative. It's negative and negative and negative until I get to 5 and beyond, until I get beyond 5. When I get beyond 5, it means that my second derivative is positive and my function is positive. Okay? So that's my first outcome. Okay, so, oops, touch it to a pin. So I know that x needs to be greater than 5. Bam. Now let's go into the opposite direction. So I'm going to get my highlighter. I'm going to change color to blue. There. Oops, 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 oops. Highlighter and blue. Okay, now I'm going to go to the left. Once I go to the left of my inflection point, my second derivative is negative. All right? So on top of that, I see that my function is below the x-axis. No matter where I go, all right? My function is below the x-axis, except for one point, which is here at my turning point, at point E. At point E, the function is 0. And we want to know when it is a positive, all right? So basically, it needs to be either above 0 or below 0. It must not be touching that x-axis, okay? So let's look at this again. When I go to any value, any x value that's less than 1, number 1, it means that my inflection point or my second derivative is a negative, and it means my function is negative. And remember, a negative multiplied by a negative is a positive. So therefore, take out my pen. I can say that x is greater than 5 or x must be less than 1. However, remember, at this point over here, at point E, our function is equal to 0. And we want to know when is it above 0, not equal to 0. So then I say that x is either greater than 5 or x is less than 1, but x is not equal to negative 1. And that is my answer, guys. Do we all understand? I know I spoke a lot now, but I had to speak a lot just so that you guys could understand it. Do we understand how I got this? You can send a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Okay. I assume you all understand. Okay, guys, so I hope we are still awake because now for the next question, it says, for which values of t will the graph p of x, which is f of x plus t, have two distinct positive roots and one negative root? So we want to know what must t be. So t is basically f of x plus t, and we want to know for which values of x will, for which values of t will I have two positive x-intercepts and one positive y-intercept. Guys, you have 3 minutes to try and answer this question, and you can post your answer in the chat. So guys, good luck and try. Okay, guys, so we are a bit pressed for time, so I'm just going to quickly get to the answers. So, where is my little paper? Okay, here's the thing, right? We want to know, basically, this is our function over here, as you can see, and we want to know what must I add to my function, all right, so that it can have one negative and two positives, all right? And we firstly know that our y value is over here at -5. Now let's think about it. All right. I want one negative, one negative, two positives. Now here's the thing. At the moment, I only have one negative and one positive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this graph up. But let's see. If I move it up 5 units, if I move it up by 5 units, our graph would look something like this. Okay. Okay, it will look something like this, because then if you move it up by 5 units, it will cut through the 0 mark. Okay. Now here's the thing. That's still not good enough, because I have one positive. Oh, sorry. Oops. One negative and one positive. All right. And this is 0. And 0 is neither positive nor negative. All right. However, if I move this above 5 units, then look what happens. Okay. Now look, okay, I'll just draw it again over here. So if I move it above 5 units like this, look here. I have one negative, one positive, one positive. So I have two positives and one negative. And on top of that, both of my positive values are different. They are distinct, meaning that there are two different numbers. However, there is a limit to what I can do with it. All right. Remember, we calculated that the turning point for this function was 3 and -32. Now, here's the thing. I can keep moving this function up and up and up, but it's going to get to a point where I have something like this. Okay. And now I sit with this very same problem. I have one negative, and I only have one positive root. Okay, so one negative x-intercept and one positive x-intercept. Okay, so I can move this thing more than 5 spaces, because if I move this thing more than 5, if t is greater than 5, then it means it's above the x-axis. However, I have a limit, and my limit is 32 units. If I move this thing up 32 units or more, it means that I'm only going to have either one positive x-intercept, one positive x-intercept, one negative x-intercept, or it means I'm only going to have one negative x-intercept if I move it greater than 32. So therefore, t needs to be in between 5 and 32. Okay, so let me explain it again. Erase it. Okay. There. Perfect. Okay, so here's my function. Remember, it looks something like this, right? This is the point 3, -32. This is the point -5. Okay. If I move this thing higher than 5 units, all right, so anything more than 5 units, I get that outcome that I wanted. One negative root, two positive roots that are different. However, I can only increase it to any value that's less than 32. Because if I move this thing up 32 units, this thing looks something like that. And now we sit with a problem, because we only have one negative root, and again, we have one positive root. So I can move this function up as much as I want to get the outcome that the question asks, but it can only be between 5 and 32 units. More than 5 units, less than 32 units. So therefore, t is this. Or you can say that t is an element of, and I'm going to say 5 and 32. And there we go. Okay. Remember curly brackets, because it cannot be equal to 5, nor can it be equal to 32. Okay, guys? Here we go. Last two questions. All right. So, this question. Now, guys, basically what they explain is, I'm not going to read this whole thing. They said that NP is 4 units, MD was 3 units or 3 centimeters. They said that N to E was x squared units and H to P was x squared units. And they also said that B, or sorry, FE was B. And they said that FGEH is a rectangle. Okay. That's basically what they've said. So this is the information that they've given me. I'm not going to go into too much of the reading. So now we need to show that the area of this rectangle, we need to show that the area is equal to this. So again, what is area equal to, guys? Area, okay, is base times height, right? It's length times breadth, or base times height, all right? So what's the base? The base is simply EH, right? What's the height? It's B, okay? B. Now, what is EH equal to? All right. The whole length of this base of NP is 4 units. All right. And then N to E is x squared. H to P is also x squared. So therefore, the area is equal to, this becomes 4 minus 2x squared. And that is equal to, oh, sorry, that is multiplied by B, which is this value over here. Now, how do we find B? Yeah, guys, so NP is 4 units, all right? And we want to find the value of EH because we want to find the area of that rectangle, okay? So the EH is simply going to be 4 minus that 2x squared, okay? That's how we get this. Okay, now we need to find what B is, all right? So this is the one where you actually have to think a little bit. So I'm going to go to the next page. And I'm going to draw, I'm basically going to draw half my triangle, okay? There we go. And I'm going to put something over here, doof, over here, bam. All right? This is N, this is E, this is F, this is D, and that's M. Now we know that DM, they told us, was 3 centimeters. Now guys, remember, this is now half of that triangle. So I know that N to D is simply 2 units. All right. I know that this NE is x squared units. Okay. So I'm just focusing on half of my triangle at the moment. So what can I do now? And this is also B. All righty. Now, the thing that you need to realize is that firstly, the edges of a rectangle are 90. So I'm only looking at half the rectangle. Okay. That's 90 and that's 90. I also know that this is 90. So what does it tell me? I'm going to also just call this point K, okay? Just this line of it, because I'm working with half, it's not shown here on this thing, but I'm going to call this point K. Now, we can see that all the angles here are 90. So what do I know about these two lines? Let me just take out my highlighter, and I'll make it yellow. What do I know about these two lines over here? All right, I know that firstly, these two lines are parallel. So I know that FE is parallel to MD, right? Just because the angles are 90. Now, for this question, you didn't have to go too much into the reasoning. Why? Because this is not really a geometry question, okay? So, guys, you just had to outline the basics, but you didn't have to go too much into the reasoning. So I know that these two lines are parallel, okay? So what does that mean? You still have to think outside the box. Does this not look familiar? Does this not remind you of something called the proportionality theorem that we learned about earlier this year? Okay. So, and also with proportionality, you should think of similarity, especially when you are working with the bases of your triangle. Okay. So, what I did, I said, okay, I'm going to take my highlighter out again. I'm just going to change the color. Highlighter, and I'm going to change the color to blue. So I looked at this triangle and I compared it with this big triangle over here, okay? That's what I did. So what I said was, and again, you did not have to go into the reasoning. I said that triangle NEF, so NEF is similar to triangle NDM. NDM, and my reasoning was angle, angle, angle. Remember, because this angle here is common, okay? This angle is the same as this angle, right? Because of the sides of being parallel. And finally, this angle is the same as this angle because of angle sum triangles. Again, you did not have to go into too much depth, okay? So what does this mean? Okay, so therefore it means that therefore NE over ND is the same as EF over DM, which is the same as NF over NM. All right, and your reasoning is corresponding sides in proportion. Okay, I promise you guys, this is still calculus. We are just trying to figure out what B is. Okay, so therefore, because I want to find out what this is, what FE is. So therefore, EF over DM or MD is equal to, what did I say? This was NE, sorry, NE over ND. All right, so what's the value of EF? EF is P, MD is 3, and that is equal to NE, which is x squared, over ND, which is 2. And therefore, you solve for B and you get that B is 3 over 2x squared. Alrighty. So that means that B is 3 over 2x squared. So this becomes AX is equal to 3 over 2x squared times 4 minus 2x squared. Okay? Now you just multiply it all out. And if you multiply it all out, you get that AX is equal to 6x squared minus 3x to the power of 4. Okay? Guys, I know it's a lot, but the biggest thing about this question is we had to find what B was. The way you did that was you realized that these sides were all parallel with each other, okay? And when you did that, you used your proportionality theorem, okay? And that's how you got the value of B. Okay, do we understand? Are we still awake? Almost done, guys. We are almost done. We just have one more question to go. So are you guys still with me? You can give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Okay, thumbs up, thumbs up. Almost done, guys. We are almost done. I promise you, we are almost done. So, now the question asks, determine the maximum area for the rectangle. So, what do I know? I firstly know that the area of my rectangle, as they stated to us in the previous question, is 6x squared minus 3x to the power of 4. All right? So, therefore, we have to find the maximum area. So what I do is I find the first derivative, a prime of x, all right, and that is becomes 12x minus, what does this become? This becomes 12x cubed. And then you set your second derivative equal to 0. Okay, so that becomes 12x minus 12x cubed is equal to 0. Now what do? I can factor out a 12x, and I'm left with 1 minus x squared is equal to 0. Now look here, we have a bracket multiplied by a bracket is equal to 0. So that therefore means that 12x is equal to 0, or 1 minus x squared is equal to 0. Over here, x just equals 0, or you can say that x squared is equal to plus or minus, x is equal to 1. So therefore, x squared is equal to 1. So therefore, x is equal to plus or minus 1. But guys, here's the thing with area and length and breadth and all of that stuff. We don't really get such thing as a negative area or negative lengths. So therefore, x is equal to 1. Okay? Now, what do? you take this and you substitute it into that original equation. So therefore, your area, when x is equal to 1, becomes 6 times 1 squared minus 3 times 1 to the power of 4. So therefore, the maximum area becomes 3 units squared. And there we go. Okay? Okay, guys? Do you understand that? Are we all still with me? Okay? Last question, and then we are done for the day. Okay? Then you guys can go party. So, last question. Question 11. Okay? So, two events A and B are such that the probability of A is 0.4. The probability, now is that A or B or A and B? You guys can answer in the chat. Is that saying A or B or A and B? You guys can say. Okay, someone says or. Yeah, I sound like a seal now. But yes, you guys are correct. Okay. So that means A or B, guys. If it said something like this, that means and. Okay, just in case you forgot. So we know that A or B is 0.52. A and B are mutually exclusive. So what does that mean? That means that the probability of A and B is 0. Okay. That's what it means if it's mutually exclusive. Calculate the probability of B. So what do we know? Well, we know that the probability of A or B is equal to the probability of A plus the probability of B minus the probability of A and B. Okay? And all we do is we just have to solve for B. So that becomes 0.52 is equal to the probability of A, which is 0.4, plus the probability of B minus 0. And all you guys need to do is you guys can just solve for this, and you get that the probability of B is simply 0.12. Okay? Pretty easy. No. So, Caden, you will not lose marks if you say and or the word or, okay? But that's just how you write it mathematically. But they are not too picky about that, okay? Not at this level, I think. But yeah, you can write and or you will get the marks. That's how some tests even write this. They won't say it like that. They'll say and or B. So you can write either or. Anyways, moving on. So question 11 states, or 11.2 states, the item that a learner bought at a tuck shop, that a learner bought at a tuck shop was recorded over a period of time. The probabilities of the learner buying a sandwich S, a chocolate C, and a juice J are shown in the Venn diagram below. What is the probability that a learner will buy a sandwich? Can you guys quickly answer that for me? It is one simple mark. Can you guys state what is the probability that the learner will buy a sandwich? Who can answer that for me? You can just post the answer. Should be a simple answer to post. Okay. So let's figure it out. Okay. So remember, let me just take out my highlighter again. So the probability that a learner will buy a sandwich, which is over here, is the value of this entire circle, guys. This 0.9 is just a probability that the learner only buys a sandwich. But we want to know what is the probability of buying a sandwich in general. So therefore, the probability of a sandwich is the value of that entire block. Let me get out my pen. So therefore, the probability of a sandwich is simply equal to 0.09 plus 0.02 plus 0.01 plus 0.04. Okay, you type that all on your calculator and you get that the probability of a sandwich, what does this become? This becomes 0.09. Let's just see. 1 plus 2 is 4. Yeah, so that becomes 0 0.1, 0.16. And Bob's your uncle, okay? There we go, yeah. Yeah, perfect. Okay? So, 11.2.2 states, calculate that the probability that the learner will buy at least 2 of the 3 items. Guys, you can answer that for me as well. Answer that for me in the chat. Calculate the probability that this child will buy at least 2, at least, that's a clue word, at least 2 or more, or 2 of the 3 items, okay? So at least 2 of the items. How will I figure that out? Okay, 0.1. Okay, so remember the probability of at least 2 items. So what does that mean? At least 2. So at least 2 means 2 or more. All right, so it either means 2 or 3. If they said the probability of buying 2 of these items, then you would only consider the parts where they just bought 2. If it says 2 or more, then you need to consider the parts where they bought 2 or more than 2. So, which parts of the Venn diagram did my learner buy 2 items or 3 items? Okay, so over here, my learner bought a chocolate and a sandwich. Over here, this learner bought a juice and a sandwich. And over here, the learner bought chocolate and a juice. All right, so those are the instances where we bought only 2 items. But we wanted to know 2 or more. So where was the instance where this learner bought all 3? And that's there. Okay, so therefore, the probability of 2 or more, or at least 2, is simply equal to 0.02 plus 0.01 plus 0.03 plus 0.04, because we're considering those occurrences. You type this on your calculator and you get the probability is of 2 or more, or at least 2, is equal to 0.1. Okay, hopefully you guys understand that, okay? Okay, someone said 0.08. It's not the answer. The answer is 0.1, okay? Almost done, guys, almost done. Now it says, calculate the probability that the learner will not buy any of these items. Can you guys please tell me what that answer is? You guys have 1 minute to do so. Okay, so what is the probability that this person does not want to buy any of the items? I'll give you 2 minutes to try and answer that. Okay, so I'm getting answers for 0. I'm also getting someone that says there's nothing outside of the circles. I'm getting 0.5 second. Okay, so here's the thing. Your entire Venn diagram needs to add up to 1.0, or just 1. So if you had to add up all those little dots, or sorry, all these little outcomes, it needs to add up to 1. All right. Now, here's the thing. Okay, I'm sorry I don't have the Venn diagram on this page, but the probability of all these events occurring, so I'm just going to put E. So E is just telling me the probability of all that stuff occurring, the learner buying a chocolate, a juice, or a sandwich, is equal to, so if you had to add up all the values in these 3 circles, you will get 0.43. Okay? So that's the probability that the learner will purchase any 3 of these items. All right? So remember, this whole thing must add up to 1. So if the chances of purchasing any 3 of these items is 0.43, what are the chances that this person purchases none of the items? So I'm going to say the probability that the person chooses none of the items is simply equal to 1 minus 0.43, and that becomes 0.57. Okay, guys? So yes, you're right. There was no number outside the circle, but you had to go figure it out and calculate it, okay? So guys, always remember, the total values in your Venn diagram must always add up to 1. If there's something missing, it means you have to go find it, okay? If it doesn't add up to 1, it means you have to go find out what that value is. Okay. Last one, 11.3. So it says 7 guitar players, each with a different name, participate in a concert. So I have 7 guitar players, okay? In 11.3.1, it asks, how many different ways can the names of the guitar players be listed, one below the other on the program? So we have 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we want to know, sorry about that, we want to know how many ways can I basically rearrange the names, okay? So how many ways can I rearrange the names? Can you guys state that for me in the chat? Right, you can write the simplified form down. You don't have to write out that full number. Very good, very good. It is 7 factorial. So this is simply 7 factorial, which is 5,040. Okay, well done, guys. Very, very good. Then it says, after the performance, the players wait backstage. There is a chair with only room for 4 people to sit on. Okay, what will the probability be that the 4 guitar players are sitting in alphabetical order from left to right? So there's a chair, joops, and we have 1, 2, 3. So there's 4 places. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 places for these people to sit on. On top of that, they are going to sit in alphabetical order from left to right. So from left to right. So how many possible ways, or what is the probability, okay, that the 4 guitar players are sitting from left to right? So guys, I'll give you 3 minutes to try and answer this one. Okay, so good luck. Okay, guys. So let's see. So I'm seeing some interesting answers. I see a very big answer. So let's see what the answer is. Now, remember, the probability that the event occurs is equal to the number of times a certain event can occur, all right, divided by the total number of outcomes, which I'm going to just say is S, all right? So you need to figure out two things. Number one, I first want to figure out, okay, what are the total arrangements that I can make with these um, um, 7 guitar players sitting on a chair that only seats 4? So look, I have 4 options, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I do, I go like this. How many guitar players do I have at first? It's 7, 6, 5, 4. And what you do is you multiply these guys, right? So it's 7 times 6 times 5 times 4, and you get an answer of 840, okay? That's the first thing. Do we understand how I got to that, okay? So I have 4 slots available, 1, 2, 3, 4, all right? And out of those 7 guitar players, only 4 can fit onto those thingies, okay? So then I go 7 times 6 times 5 times 4, and I get 840, okay? Now here's the thing, right? Let me just erase this quickly. Eraser, give me a second. How many possible ways can I arrange these guys in alphabetical order if all of them have different names? So how many ways can I arrange them in alphabetical order from left to right if all of them have different names? Can you guys answer that for me in the chat, please? Okay. So guys, I'll answer that question now, but just explain to me, how many ways can I arrange this group in alphabetical order if all of them have different names? And I go from left to right. Okay, I see no one's answering. 2, okay, I see your answer for 2. Okay, so guys, remember, alphabetical order goes from A to Z, all right? And we're also going from left to right. So how many ways can I group them in alphabetical order? It's only one, okay? So how many ways can I make this group in alphabetical order? What? How many ways can these different people be seated on that chair that only seats for 4? It is 840. So therefore, the probability of your outcome is simply 1 over 840. Okay? Now, I'm going to re-explain the chair story. Okay, let me just rub this all out. So hopefully we can understand the alphabetical thing. I think the alphabetical one is easy to understand. So let's explain the chair. I have a chair that seats 4 people. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have 7 people to choose from. 7 guitar players who are people. So here's my first chair. Here's my second chair. Here's my third chair. Here's my fourth chair. For the first chair, how many options do I have to choose from? Well, from 7 people, I have 7 options to choose from. Okay? So now one person is sitting. How many people are left standing? For the second chair, for the second seat, it's 6 people. Okay, so now 2 people are seated. Okay, how many people are left to fill up this third seat? It's 5 people. And finally, how many people are left to fill up this fourth seat? It is 4 people. And finally, what you do is you just multiply them together and you get that this is 840. So guys, this is the number of ways that these 7 people can actually be seated in that chair that only fits 4 people, okay? Now we want to figure out what is the probability that these people are seated in alphabetical order from left to right, okay? So the probability of any outcome is equal to the number of times an outcome can occur, which is this, divided, or yeah, so the number of times this outcome will happen divided by the number of possible outcomes. Okay, so how many times can it occur that these guys sit in alphabetical order from left to right? It's only one time. Okay, they're either in alphabetical order from left to right or they're not. Okay, so it's only once. How many times can these people be, or how many possible ways can these people be seated on that couch of four? There's 840 ways that they can be seated on the couch. So therefore, the probability that four guitar players are sitting in alphabetical order from left to right is 1 out of 840. Okay? Does that make sense? Does that clear it up? Okay, you guys can say yes or no. Almost done, guys. One last final push. Okay, so does it make sense? Tatum and Raiz. Okay, Raiz did answer. Okay, perfect. So, guys, last question. And I hated this question. Anyways, that's just me. So it says, during the performance, the 7 guitar players sit in line on a stage. 4 guitar players are female, and 3 are male. In how many different ways can they be seated if the males may not sit next to each other? Now, guys, whoever made this test put in the worst question for last, because for this question, you actually had to go draw out or figure it out by drawing out a table. Okay? So this is what I did. So here's my stage, and here are my 4 female guitar players, all right? And my male guitar players, they don't want to stand next to each other. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are 5 spaces in which they can fit themselves where they don't stand next to each other. Do we all understand that so far? You can say, please say yes or no in the chat. Do we all understand this so far? The top part of the row. Okay? Perfect. Now, let's see. Okay, so the females, all right, I'm just going to make them stand like this. Now, let's see. How can I position the males? Well, let's start first. I can have a male standing here, a male standing here, and a male standing here. And you can see, look, there's a female in between each of them. Okay, I can have a male over here, a male over here, and a male over here. Okay, and as you can see, there is a female in between, a female or 2 in between each of them. I can again have a male over here, a male over here, and finally a male over here. And again, you see that they are not standing next to each other. Carrying on, I can have a male over here, but now you see, I've used up all the options where the male is second. So I'm going to go, let's have a male first, and the male will be number 3. Okay? Then I can have another male over here. Okay? Or I can have a male starting first, a male in block 3, and finally a male over here. Okay? So, are we with me so far? I'm just basically figuring out where can I position these males among the females. Guys, do we understand that one so far? This is, I swear, this was the most worst question you can ask as the last final question. All right? Moving on. I can now either have a male first, or I can have a male at this spot and at this spot. All right? What else can I have? Yeah, that's about it. So that exhausts all the possible outcomes for if we have a male in this first block over here, in this first block over here. Now, let's say I want a male to start over here. Well, I can have a male here, and finally a male over here. All right? Or I can have a male that starts over here, a male that starts over here, and finally a male that starts over here. All right? Or, wait, let me just do the second last one again. Okay. Or I can have a male over here and finally a male over here. All right? Finally, I can have either a male starting here, a male starting here, and finally a male starting here. And finally, I can have a male that's either over here, or over here. All right? So guys, these are the 10 ways in which we can position the males amongst the females. Do we understand that so far? Okay. So the first step of this question is figuring out how many ways can I make the males position the males amongst the females. Did we understand this so far? You can give a thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay. Okay, so remember, what I first needed to do was I needed to figure out, okay, where can I position the males amongst the females, all right? And it did take a little bit of effort, okay? That's why I drew a little table and I made the females solid lines and I just positioned the males in between them, okay? That's what I did, right? Why are there 9 seats? Remember, we do not want the males to sit next to each other. So it's actually not 9 seats. It's just where I can position the males in between the females, okay? So there's basically 5 spaces in which I can position the males where they don't stand next to each other because I'm positioning them in between the females, okay? Do we understand that, guys? Okay, perfect. I hope you do. Now, here's the thing. In each little section, remember, I can also rearrange the females and I can rearrange the males, okay? So basically, this is one way that this is one combination that I can make. But again, I can swap, this can be male 2, male 1, male 3. This can be female 2, female 3, female 4, and female 1. Or it can be the other way around. So within these little sections, I can still swap them out in terms of like I can put male 2 here, or I can put male 1, male 3, or whatever. So that means that in this first block, there is 4 factorial ways to arrange my female. So this can be female 1, 2, 3, or 4, or it can be female 2, female 3, female 4, female 1. So there's 4 factorial ways in which I can swap out the females, and there's also 3 factorial ways in which I can swap out and rearrange the males, okay? Provided that they stay in that position that I've arranged them in. So let's just focus on this first block. I know it's a horrible question, I know. And the worst part about this question, guys, is there are ways you can solve this in very short, easy steps, but you are not taught that in your curriculum, okay, which I find very stupid. Anyways, that's just my opinion. Okay, so let me just take us out to yellow. Highlighter yellow. So guys, remember, I'm just focusing on this row over here, okay? So in this row, I've positioned the males in that order. However, within that order that I've made them, I can still interchange. I can put John in this first one, I can put Barry here, and I can put Jacob here, or I can just interchange them, all right? So how many ways can I properly rearrange everyone in that order for column or for row 1? It's 4 factorial times 3 factorial, okay? Let's go to column 2. Okay, let me just take out my highlighter pencil again. Eraser, let's just erase this. Let's go, so this was column 1. Let's go to column 2. Again, these are the ways in which I can position the males and the females. Now, again, I can swap that first male with the second male, the guy who's standing second. All right. Again, it's also 4 factorial times 3 factorial. Okay. For column 3, again, these are the ways that I position them. So that's where they must stand for column 3. All right. However, the guy that's standing right at the back can swap with the guy standing in the front. The female standing next to guy 1 can swap with the female standing next to the guy in column 5 over here. So again, it's 4 factorial times 3 factorial. And guys, you do it all the way until your 10th column. So therefore, the number of ways, so the number of ways is equal to 10 times 4 factorial times 3 factorial. And if you type that on your calculator, you get 1000 440 ways. Okay? Do you guys understand that, or would you like me to re-explain again? Like I said, and this is only for 3 marks, and you have to do all this effort for 3 marks. Okay? They could have put in something a lot more simple. So whoever put in this question was not a nice teacher. I can tell you that. Was a nasty person. Okay, so I will re-explain. Don't worry. So, okay. Let me just rub this all out. Okay, so guys, the shorter way is you use combinations, but yeah, you're not taught that. So I'm not going to show you that because you need to have a better understanding of how and when to use it. So I'm not going to show you the other way because it is a little bit above your understanding, and it's probably gonna confuse you a little bit more. So unfortunately, we have to do the long manual way. Anyways, so guys, can we all agree that these are the possible ways that the males can be arranged in such that they do not stand next to each other? Okay. So you can't do that because I tried that as well, and that also it didn't work. You actually have to go physically count out how many ways can I position these males in such that they don't stand next to each other. Okay. Okay. So, all right. Now, these are the ways that you can position the males in such that they do not sit next to the females. But guys, let's look at row 1. So I'm going to highlight this entire row over here. So for row 1, okay, I have a male, a female, a male, a female, a male, a female, a female. Okay, so that is how the guitar players can stand on stage just for row 1. Okay, do we all understand that part? Okay, do we understand that part? Yes or no? Yes, no, maybe. Perfect. Yes, thumbs up. Okay, perfect. So that is what for row 1, that is the way the people can stand on stage without the males standing next to each other. Okay. Now here's the thing. Within that arrangement, all right, this female can swap with this female. Maybe she doesn't like this guy, so she swaps with her. This female can swap with this female. This guy, he doesn't like this girl, so he swaps with this guy. This guy, he wants to be next to this girl, so he swaps with him. So, so they can all swap each other around. They can all interchange with each other, provided that they stay in that arrangement. Do you guys agree with me with that point? Okay? Do you guys agree? So they can swap with each other, but they must stay in that arrangement. Male, female, male, female, male, female, female. Okay? Do you guys understand that part? Okay, perfect. So, how many ways can we rearrange the males in this order? Well, there's 3 factorial ways. How many ways can we arrange this for females? There's 4 factorial ways. Okay, let's look at column 2. Okay, so let's look at column 2. Okay, so column 2 is male, female, male, female, 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 and male. Okay, so this is for column 2. It's male, female, male, female, 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 and finally male. Okay, so that's how they can stand on stage. Again, this mannequin over here, he can swap with this mannequin over here. This female doesn't like this mannequin, so she can swap with her. So they can all swap with each other, provided that they stay in that order. Male, female, male, female, 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 and lastly male. Okay? And again, How many times can they swap with each other? It's 3 factorial multiplied by 4 factorial. And guys, we basically apply this all the way down until the 10th column. And it's just going to be 3 factorial times 4 factorial, da 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 da. And then it just becomes the number of columns, which is 10, multiply by this. And then you get this, 1,440. Does that make sense now? You might have to replay this video once or twice. Guys, these types of questions don't come up too often, but they are nasty questions, okay? It's such effort that you must do, even though there are techniques that you can do, but they don't teach you that. It's silly questions, this. So if you ever get a question where they specify a condition, such as saying males must not sit next to each other, or these two people must person X and person Y must have 3 people standing in between them, right? Then you actually have to draw out these tables, okay? Why is it multiplied with 10? Remember, because you are applying this for all 10 columns, okay? So it's 4 factorial times 3 factorial for this column. However, you have to apply it for this column, this column, this column, all the way down until the 10th column. That's why we multiplied by 10. Okay? So guys, that is our final question. And I just want to say a big, big thank you for taking time out of your day to view our lessons. If you guys might have not recognized it, but we have uploaded your chemistry videos earlier on. Your chemistry videos are available on YouTube, all right? In that link that I sent you. So you just need to go access that link again, and you'll see the chemistry videos are available. And by the end of the day, this maths videos will be made available. So guys, thank you for sticking through us with the whole lesson. I hope you guys were able to learn new things. You might have to go replay 1 or 2 videos again. Maybe try and figure out the question on your own. If you're still struggling, pop me an email and I will maybe try and explain it a little bit better, okay? But guys, thank you for coming. Thank you for sticking through, and enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy your holiday. Please be safe. Don't do silly stuff, right? And see you guys for the final exams, okay? Because we will also be having class. So guys, good luck. All right. See you tomorrow for maths paper 2. But guys, thank you for coming and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.